Alrighty. Good afternoon. Thanks for joining us for the January 9th, 2024 Curriculum Committee meeting. It is being live streamed on MSAD11.org. We'll call the meeting to order at 3:40 p.m. and I'll just have folks introduced quickly.
Diane Potter,
Alyssa Tracy.
Megan Carlson.
All right, and I'm going to hand it over to Angela.
Hi,
Kick us off. Yeah.
I'm Angela Hardy, and we have 4 guests with us today, our instructional coaches. So I'd like to, I'll have them introduce themselves, like which area you focus on and your name. And then I will introduce the data report, and then we'll open it up for a conversation
Great.
For the coaches to share a little bit about their work thus far this year, and you to just ask questions and get as much information as you think would be helpful. So why don't you introduce yourselves? Karen, you can start and we'll go
Sure.
down the line.
Karen Collin, and I'm working across all buildings, but mostly with K-2.
Kathy Labway, and I'm working in 3 buildings because I'm working mostly with 3 through 5. Kirsten Perry, I am at the middle school, but I have been spending a little bit of time up in the high school this year. Lindsay Bickford, math coach, 5 buildings.
What did you say at the end? Math coach?
Math coach, 5 buildings.
Why?
Okay.
So all the Ks in Lindsay, no offense, right? Or Ks and Cs, yeah. Yeah,
Yes,
yeah.
And Lindsay.
Yeah, awesome. Thank
And
you.
math. All literacy.
Yeah, math.
It's fine.
Excellent. Thank you.
So on the screen and right in front of you, because I also printed it out today.
Thank
I'm
you.
learning. This is a brief overview of some coaching data. We try to provide you a similar report every year in January, so you can see progress over time. Currently, as you just saw, we have 4 coaches. We have an open, unfilled position in the math coaching side. It was vacated just at the start of last school year, because we transferred someone into an administrative role. Then we didn't advertise for this particular role until we were sure the budget would pass because of the way we're funding it. And so when we did advertise, we did not find qualified candidates. Now, since then, we have found a highly qualified candidate, but she's currently employed somewhere else who has expressed great interest in being here.
Okay.
So she may, and she will be moving, so she may, if a position continues to be open in the future, she may be trying to apply as well as who knows what else. So it's not, if we keep the position open, it's not that we won't be able to fill it forever. It's usually our timing.
Yeah, makes sense.
And the other issue is when we do advertise it, because of the grant funding that it's within, we're advertising it as 1 year only.
Yeah.
And people, because it's grant funded, we're required to do that. And people say, ooh, I don't know that I want 1 year
Right.
only, even though we've had like 4 consecutive years of 1 year only.
Yeah.
And every year we have found a way to make it happen. So that's of concern to candidates. And as you'll see through the report here, this is mostly a K-8 lens. We've had limited access with the high school only because we can only do so much. So we focused first in the elementary, and then we added in middle school, and we've built out a more robust middle school support this year at the expense of some elementary support. And so the high school has 3 to 5 touch points in a year ever. As you can see, the requests here, when we first started, we had 1 coach in 18-19, we had 2 coaches in 19-20. There's a skipped year because of data tracking around COVID. So then we moved into 4 coaches. That's where the big jump comes from. Across the years, and then this current year, it's the same number. However, I will also add, we've had a number of school interruptions this particular year, and this data is up to December, that we haven't had in prior years so much in the fall. So we're on track for the number of coaches that we have. The requests by school are documented here. As you can see, the high school has 3. Lindsay's been shifted. While she does work across all the elementary and middle schools, her primary focus is middle school, 3 days a week. And she has an office there with Kirsten. And her secondary focus, although I'm not sure it feels that way, is where she can across the 4 elementary schools. So that's been trying to like really prioritize the need. So as you can see, our numbers at the middle school are decent, 167, which is quite high compared to years past. And then the frequency of connections with the same teacher. So if, let's say, Kirsten meets with the same teacher 3 different times, then that would be under the 3 times column, as you can see. And the metric there, as you see, is up by 20s. So once teachers are kind of hooked into coaching, there's evidence that there's ongoing support. It seems to be the sweet spot. And then beyond coaching, which can be observation and feedback, co-planning, co-teaching, modeling, looking at data, considering assessment practices, looking in, they'll share even more. They also provide a lot of professional learning support, job embedded, so just in time during a teacher's contract or a staff member's contract, and trying to build a lot of capacity. We have, what I didn't put in this report is we've expanded. There's been a lot more support with special education staff. It's actually been highly significant support. And we continue to provide support to Title I and Learning Lab. But around learning and engagement, there's some elements here that are pretty exciting. They continue to provide like differentiated PD. Kirsten's been working with the high school librarian to provide some support to the science team and social studies team now around strategies to access grade level curriculum for students who are really struggling. That's just starting. Reading challenges, newsletter support, building a culture around kind of rigorous and fun learning. So like Kirsten works with another staff member and does Wednesday Puns Day with all students over the intercom, and it's a whole process. As you're well aware of the learning themes, and each one of them facilitates an intensive learning theme. We have training in a specific early math diagnostic interview. Number Worlds is a special education program that Lindsay's been helping train in. We've presented at a regional conference. Lindsay has presented at Maine Math and Science Alliance, training for secondary staff. That's been made public in our curriculum newsletter. Kathy's leading a book study on shifting the balance, grades 3 through 5, which is really focusing on that science of reading and the shifts in practices. And they're doing it across the Riverview school community. Karen has done one in the past using the K-22 version with a number of early elementary teachers. Assessment, developing assessment literacy, literacy kind of change management work that we've done across New England. We're part of a federal professional learning network. We were tapped by the Maine Department of Education to be part of this Kindergarten Sturdy Bridge program and ongoing professional learning support. And Karen is part of that with me and some other people. And then our district is moving forward with opportunity culture, which is just starting to explore this idea of shifting the way we structure and facilitate our days to enable excellent teaching and small group intensive instruction when needed, while also building teacher leadership and supporting educator administrator sustainability. So we're at the district design phase, and we'll be bringing that again to the board as we continue to learn more. So Karen's part of that. So those are just some, that's not even everything. Those are just some of the ways in which they influence the culture. There are members of the MTSS team, members of report card, 2 of them are on report card committees. Others have been on report card committees in the past. They're members of discipline committees and student support teams and professional learning groups across the district with principals and coaches meetings with principals. And so they're spending their time wisely. So I want to give you an opportunity to just, if you could summarize briefly, coaches, if, where are you focusing this year? Like what's a focus for you? I know you're doing so much, but if you could narrow it down, what's sort of a focus for you? Lindsay, I know yours might be just managing your sanity.
Oh, she's got a note card.
Or share the notes that you might have that might be most effective and helpful. And then just dive in with questions. We did start at 3:40, so I kind of want to keep this to 4:10 so that we have enough time to go over the program of studies and also honor the time that they're spending later in the day with us.
Yep. So don't talk a lot.
Uh-oh, good luck.
Engage, please engage. I'll manage the time, you share. I'm gonna take down this visual so that we can see everyone's faces better.
Where do you want to start?
And you decide.
I feel sorry. Goodness.
And just remind them your focus, because they're just getting to know you.
I think for me this year, my focus has really come around because of the learning thing that I started doing this year, which is on small group instruction. And my focus has become, I really tried to focus on tier 1 instruction, the classroom instruction, because small group instruction is a piece that some people are struggling with and trying to find the time to make it work. And what does it look like and what are the resources? So those are all the things we've been talking about in the PD session, but I've also been able to connect, and by attending PLCs, especially there's one school in particular where I've been able to actually go once a month, and we've been able to continue those conversations and connect other things that we're discussing to the small group instruction and questions that we might not have time to answer in the PD, but we can take it and go a little deeper in the PLCs. And I think that's been a real plus this year. And also putting the focus on tier 1 instruction, because in the past, sometimes I get involved in like, I'm trying to focus on tier 1 instruction over here and I'm trying to focus on MTSS or intervention type instruction, because there's a difference between, well, it's all small group instruction, but there's small group instruction, which is a tier 2 or tier 3 intervention. But then there's a small group instruction that should be happening during your literacy block for small group reading, where you'd be able to do some really focus on the needs of particular students and the reading strategies that they need to be successful readers, and doing that in the classroom during that time, which is above and beyond the interventions that you're doing. And then some of them still may need small group interventions, but I really found a need to focus on tier 1 this year. And that's really where I've been trying to keep my focus. And through the book club that we're doing, the shifting the balance, that's been really good. It worked out really well. We're doing it at the teachers' meetings. We've been able to come up with a format so that people don't feel too stressed out about coming and talking about it, but we've figured out a way to do it, so it's not causing a lot of outside work. So that's been really good. We've had some really good discussions come out of it. We're just getting started, so I'm looking forward to the next few months as we continue to have those discussions. So that's been probably where my focus is this year.
To that, and also the elementary level, I mostly work with K-2, but during our learning theme or professional development days in service time, I'm working with K-12. Actually, there's even high school teachers in my learning theme, and I'm working a lot on intervention assessment and progress monitoring, just even smaller increments of change. So that's kind of been a focus with the learning theme, doing a few opportunities to get together with the group that chose this session. And then it's allowing me to get into their classrooms too and support problem solving around students who are in the classroom. They might not be in Title I or special ed, but maybe they're a little behind in one area. And then supporting through our MTSS system, building a plan, and then having a tool to monitor. I've been spending a lot of time creating tools for teachers. So sometimes I'm just here working in my office, actually creating things for them to use because they don't have the time to do that and I do. And it's really making a huge difference and people are so thankful because instead of having to go find that, they're wasting their time looking for it. I can create it and then it's relevant to the work that we're doing every day. I know Lindsay's done a lot of that work too with math. And so I've been supporting classroom teachers with this work, creating these plans so that they can do, a few times a week, just 5 to 10 minutes of targeted instruction to help fill in those gaps. And there's lots of success stories there where they're like, wow, okay, we don't need to refer them to Title I services for additional, more intense support, or it's not going to turn into a special, or the Title I teachers that support them with these plans as well, so that maybe it's not going to turn into a special ed referral because we've actually targeted the learning and used the right assessment to figure out exactly, be diagnostic and figure out what's going on. So I've been working with all the teachers in Tier 1 classroom teachers, Title I quite a bit, and giving them a lot of training and professional learning in small groups, and building these plans and creating progress monitoring tools for them to use to see the small increments of change, because some of our assessments, it's too big and broad, so you can't see those quick wins that you're getting from your day-to-day instructions. So that's really exciting and fun to do. And I've been working with the special ed teachers a lot as well, doing professional learning with them, and training, and then also creating tools for them to use. So we actually have some common tools now, all across our system.
Thank you.
You wanna go?
Are you going first? 'Cause
You can go first.
I can go first?
Sure.
Oh, that's so nice.
I'll piggyback.
Okay.
We'll do it together.
So a lot of what I think both of us have focused on is our requests from teachers have been coming in on how to help struggling learners and how to support those students that have behaviors that appear as like unmotivated and acting out because the work is just, it's too hard for where they're at. So they're struggling and so it's just manifesting into a bigger issue. So that's a lot of the requests I think both of us have been getting this year. One thing I want to note, because I am stretched across 5 buildings, it was an epiphany talking to a teacher yesterday that reached out and said, I have been waiting to reach out because I know you're already stretched thin, so I didn't want to bother you. And there are others that have now said the same. So they realized that I'm stretched thin, and so they are trying to figure it out on their own before coming to me. So I was like, well, please still come to me. So that was interesting. PLC, I've been going to PLCs, so this is my first year at the middle school. Been going to all those PLCs, working a lot with special education, Title I, Tier 1. Like Karen had said, I've made a lot of progress monitoring tools, and one of the Title I ed techs actually helped me make some of them. And as she is using them with her students, she is actually giving me feedback and realizing I can't keep up. So she's going in and making the tweaks, which is lovely because she's like, this is not working. Can I do this? I was like, yes, like
Do that.
do whatever works for your kids. Doing a lot of MTSS support. I feel like a lot of what I've been doing is, okay, these students are struggling on this. What strategy should I have them try to get them up to where they need to be? Typically the standard says the standard algorithm for most things for math, and the United States is one of the only countries that has a standard algorithm for math. There's usually multiple strategies you can use. So trying to get the kids a strategy that works and they can use, whether or not it's this one, or this one, as long as it's efficient and they can use it. So that's a lot of the work we're doing. I'm trying to see so we had some we wanted to do together.
Right.
Math team. There were some kids that wanted math team at the middle school, so I started that back up.
Oh, I
Nice.
should have said that, sorry.
So I have 8 6th graders, maybe 7. How many? I have 6 7th graders and 6 8th graders. I had more kids that were interested, but they can't get after school transportation.
Oh.
So, and there was no other place for me to do it in the schedule to try to do math teams. So some kids were not able to join because there's no transportation.
Did you first meet?
Yes, we did have our first meet and yes.
And they're preparing for their second meet.
Yes, and I do have a parent volunteer, which is lovely, and we've been working in groups, and by last Thursday, 3:30, all of our brains were ready to explode. So, but they are working hard and plugging through and learning new things that maybe they're not getting in the classroom. And as a general thing, I am at the middle school 3 days a week and elementary 2 days. And I feel like that's it, other than that.
Right.
Okay.
Well, we could talk about tier one.
That too.
So this year, you're probably very aware of this experiment. Based on the need that we found in the middle school, where our special ed students and students who are reading 3, 4, 5, 6 years behind grade level, really struggling in the classroom. And so this year we took students who are 3 years or more behind in reading. And math is the same. Four for math, 3 for reading. 3 or more, and we put them into a class that's co-taught with special education teachers and a regular classroom teacher. Phenomenal educators. We've been spending significant time within the classrooms because the focus is to make sure these kids have a grade level experience. So they're hearing the vocabulary, the stories, vocabulary at your level in math, and feeling like they're part of their grade level, but the materials being presented in a way that's accessible to them. Teachers are working hard to make the material accessible. And we have 8th grade students who are reading at a 1st grade level, a 2nd grade level. And it's tricky work, but we're seeing significant shifts. And probably the most heartwarming thing that I actually heard this today from the 6th grade teacher was that her students are feeling successful. They went in to take the NUIA today, and they said, well, we just click through. We don't ever really do it. And the data shows us that there's 40 or more questions and they do it in 20 minutes. You know, they're not really doing the work. So she told them today, I know you can do this. I want you to take the time. And they all were nodding, and I was watching them. They're all nodding and they're agreeing that they can do this work. So that's really big. So we're seeing our data starting to come in, and it's looking very positive. We're kind of waiting to see what NUIA shows us, but we do have some weekly checks that we can do, and it's pretty exciting. More to come on that, but did you want to add
And the
anything
kids,
to that?
kids that typically say like they're not a math person, they hate math, are saying, I like math now.
And one wanted to join the math team.
And wanted to join the math team.
Great. Yeah, that's really exciting work. So in the literacy side, what do you want to talk about REACH next before we move on to support?
We can.
All right, so we've been asked to teach a REACH class 4 days a week, and it's for the gifted and talented students. It's 30 minutes a day. We have 27 or so kids in the library, and it actually has been quite a blessing. Getting back into teaching and planning and dealing with the things that our colleagues are dealing with, and trying on strategies we talk about, and it's been wonderful, actually. Wouldn't you agree with that?
It's one of the highlights of the day.
It really is. Yeah, we've built some nice relationships with our students, and we attend the meetings, of course, with the whole district REACH team, and there's some real intentional talk around how can we make this experience powerful for these kids. And that's exciting to be part of that work too.
And the kids are also excited because previously they had separate class periods for REACH, and now we have all the 6th, 7th, and 8th graders together in the library. And so they get to know people that maybe they wouldn't have before. And a lot of our groupings, they choose to work in mixed grade teams, which is pretty cool and interesting. And they're getting exposed to different things. We've done Lego robotics. You did a Victorian era unit.
Yeah, we just finished reading A Christmas Carol and reading the play aloud. Because of all the interruptions we had this late fall, we weren't able to actually put on the play, which was our goal, but they sat around and we read it together and that was fun.
And then we're gonna do the stock market game
We started that.
and
today.
back to Lego robotics.
And, oh, and something came up today, one of our students said, who's Travis Mills? Because we were talking about nonprofit. And we looked at each other like, that's next. So, yeah. It's been great for us because we are also experiencing some of those behaviors
Mhm.
of not, how do I say this?
Disengaged.
Yeah, disengagement. When we asked them what they were curious about at the beginning of the year, we got a few responses, not really curious about anything. So that, but we're learning how to engage our students, which allows us to be that much more supportive for the teachers we're working with. So it's been a really good experience. So my focus this year, I'm in the middle school literacy coach. We've been rewriting the curriculum or working on writing a curriculum, which is quite a big job. We've got the reading part pretty much accomplished. We're working on writing, grammar, and speaking and listening this year. It's a lot of work to do, but not a lot of time available to do it. So one of my goals this year was to attend the weekly grade level meetings so that I could sit in with teachers and we could do some of that work together. I didn't want to take too much time from them because they have other things they need to work on other than curriculum. And we also have the learning theme 4 times a year. So we have an hour and a half to 2 hours that my whole ELA team is participating in, plus the social studies teacher and a special ed teacher. So we're all working together to develop curricula. And we're recognizing that we don't really have a philosophy about grammar yet. How are we going to do word study, grammar, vocabulary instruction? So we're just dipping our toe into doing a book club starting up soon. Angela, just so you know, everybody's in, and I've figured out how to get it done. So
I will buy the books.
yes, thank you. I came in not late, but 3 minutes before the meeting started, because I was working with a group of 3 teachers who have agreed to work on developing a writing continuum for the middle school. So we really have been researching what others are doing, and now we're starting to develop our own. And one of the things that we really have liked is a continuum that goes to about grade 3 or 4 and goes up through 9 or 10. So we know, for example, when we write leads, what does it look like at a 4th grade level and so on? What is that developmental step? So we're working on creating that piece. The end goal is that we create a rubric that can be used for any kind of writing, not only in the ELA classes, but across all content areas, so that we can start to really boost that the writing in. Science teachers are writing with their students, and social studies teachers are writing with their students, and art teachers are writing with their students, but we're kind of all doing our own thing. And it's beautiful work, but we would love to see. I think we're just going to be more powerful if we're all saying the same thing and asking for the same requirements. So that has been a huge focus this year. And then, of course, the supporting of teachers with the differentiation of instruction in the classrooms has been a big one. And a lot of it is the behaviors, just kids shutting down, it's been tricky for all of us really to deal with that.
I'll also add that our 7th grade got particularly large this year. I don't know what happened, but all of a sudden we had a number of move-ins. And so the class sizes are starting to really creep up there pretty high. And the classrooms aren't built for that number of students. So in some cases, like between class periods, we're moving a desk from here to here to make up for it. And there's not a lot of, so some of the strategies we'd like to do for differentiation are actually physically challenging because we can't group the kids because there's no room to walk around, or it's a fire hazard if we do it that way, or and so that is something that's on our radar. I know the principal's been thinking creatively about it too for the future, and while our district overall has experienced some decline in enrollment, we still have pockets, right? And like this one was unforeseen. It's like, I don't know, 25 students or something in the course of a 6-week period or something. We had an increase and
Most of the seventh grade classes are almost at the limit of 21. In one of the classrooms, there are 3 kids who sit around the side of the teacher's desk, like 1, 2, 3. That's where they sit because there's no place else to sit. So it's crowded in some of these classrooms.
Yeah.
And they're really amazing educators who are doing incredible things. I think that's all I have, if you all have questions.
yeah, so I think it would be a great time for you to, let's definitely take a few minutes. It's worth it. You have a data set, you've heard a little more about where their focus is. What's burning for you?
I want to know about book clubs. I love book clubs. So I love hearing what's going on in book clubs, like what the books are and how everybody's.
Do you mean for our students or for the adults?
Oh. You know, I just,
I certainly encourage teachers at the middle school to use the book club philosophy.
Right,
Because it's a really wonderful way to have a common theme. For example, in 8th grade, there's a Holocaust unit coming up. And last year, the teacher purchased incredible texts that reflect Holocaust, all different kinds of themes, but at varying levels, so that everybody's answering the same questions and experiencing the same vocabulary, but they are able to access the text. So book clubs in middle school literacy, all grade levels, it's fabulous. The book clubs for adults is a great way for us to all learn together and come together and talk, but it's efficient.
Yeah.
We read some great stuff. We have opportunities for conversation in this book club that I'm going to be starting soon. We're going to go into our classrooms and practice and come back and say, well, that didn't go so well, or hey, this is awesome, we're on to something. So that's what I would say about book clubs. Did you want to add?
Because book clubs is a huge piece of our collaborative classroom curriculum. It's part of that small group instruction piece that happens as you move into the school year. And right now, that's a lot of the things that we're working on, how to getting those up and running, and what do they look like, and who's where. And if they're coming through collaborative classrooms, starting in 3rd grade, that's when the book club piece picks up. They start by teaching kids that are ready, that you want to do some pre-assessing, but make sure kids are able to discuss books, they don't have to be obviously perfect with them, but have some really strong strategies in place to be able to work in a group and have a conversation to start at that level. But you start out by teaching them what are called foundation lessons, and you can use either fiction or nonfiction. And through those foundation lessons, they're learning also how to structure a book club, how to set a schedule for themselves, because they're not going to be meeting with the teacher all the time, every day. How to complete a book club agreement that's going to work for that group. And so as they work through this first text, they're also learning the structure and how to take that on more independently when they get to the end. And then there's a level that's a little lower, it goes down, that is more guided and teacher directed. It's just small group reading instruction, but it still works similarly to a book club. And so that's where they start, is that type of instruction is about 3rd grade. And so if they're starting down there and they're working their way through, and we're being consistent about teaching the structure and the elements and what they need to know, that by the time they get up into the middle school, you're hoping that all of that work is going to come together and they're going to really be able to have book clubs. But book clubs are a big piece.
I had been going to ask about, I think in the past, we've heard a lot about support for teachers, which I think is wonderful, and that's so necessary. But reactions or from the students themselves, and you were talking about that, how you're going up against the disengaged, out of cams, just there, and having success with that. I'm sure you all are doing stuff like that, but that was what interested me a lot, wherever you feel the students themselves are feeling like, I'm part of this, I can do this. That's.
What's been interesting with student for me, is that sometimes, and I think that you guys working with the gifted and talented kids at the middle school is kind of fun because a lot of times we're supporting teachers with students that are struggling or differentiating down. So sometimes the kids that are on level or above level don't get as many interactions or opportunities for a small group. And of course, I'm mostly with K-2, so they love that attention and having this little extra person in the room that's taking them. So to have like an on level or above level, they're like, are you gonna take me today? Are you gonna take me? Because they love having me in the room and they're excited that I'm there. And so they sometimes might think that I'm only gonna take maybe the last time I was in their room, I took the kids that were below level, and now all of a sudden I'm getting to take some of the above level kids, and I'm helping to support teachers with planning for like enrichment or above level learning. And so that's kind of fun too, because then the kids that don't get as many small group interactions are getting these extra interactions and trying out some different type of learning or different tools. I might bring in some manipulatives or something for literacy, just like in math, they do some hands-on things and it might be different than something that they usually do. So they like having another adult in the room and having more opportunities for interactions like that. So that's been a positive. They enjoy seeing us. And like Lindsay said today, you were telling me a story about going in and the kids like, I know you, if when they see us and, oh, you were in my class last year. And so they get excited to see us and they know that we're going to do something fun together and collaborate, and they like it.
It always makes you feel good when you're walking down the hall and they come out of the rooms randomly, oh, hi, Mrs. Lowry.
Right.
But, and even working through a coaching cycle, when you're working with a teacher through a coaching cycle and you're working on specific, she may have needs, but the students, it's because she's trying to work to differentiate and meet the needs of the kids in her classroom. So when I'm working with a teacher through a coaching cycle, I can also at the same time through that 6-week cycle be helping her to get like the clubs up and running. So I might take one on to get it started till we get the timing figured out. So we're in there working at the same time. So I'm also working with students and teachers.
I think one of the nice things about going up to the middle school this year, even though I was kind of like, I taught middle school too, so it's like, it's weird.
But you've been in the land of
Flash.
little
I know, I've been in Little Land.
For a while.
Yeah.
But it was really interesting because I had worked so heavily with some of the 5th grade students last year, trying to boost their learning up a little bit. When they got to the middle school and they saw me there, they're like, wait, I thought you only did elementary, and they were very excited. And so
She gets hugs.
I get hugs all the time.
That's awesome.
Like a celebrity sighting.
It is.
But,
No,
and
I get to share
yeah,
space.
Great, I appreciate all of you. I have a cousin
Oh,
who's a math coach in Rhode Island, so I'm feeling sorry, no offense to literacy folks, but exciting stuff. I appreciate all you do, and you are pulled in many directions, so I'm a project manager by nature, even though I do consulting now, so I appreciate you've got to schedule all that, and then you're driving around the district, and then you're dealing with various behaviors and teachers, and I wonder, the numbers are quite enlightening. I mean, you've got a lot going on. It seems like the 4 of you work kind of well together, and then you go off and do your thing. Yeah, I mean, so that's awesome. I wonder how can we do better at not only recruiting teachers to reach out to you, but maybe persuading the school board that we need more coaches for exactly what you just said. We kind of cover the things we have to with Title I and certain things, but what about students that just want to raise their hand because they want math club, regardless of where they are, right? I'm just curious. It's kind of an open-ended question, but how do we pull people in to do what you do to add value? This is pretty impressive to me. So I'd start with where I said thank you and appreciate all that you do. So just thoughts.
like one thing is word of mouth,
Okay.
even just between teachers, like,
Yeah.
well, I'm struggling with this, and they might ask their team teacher, be like, well, I just worked with Lindsay and this was really helpful,
Perfect,
you should
yeah.
reach out to her.
Mm-hmm.
So a lot of that I feel like happens,
That's because of trust.
right?
Yeah, I was gonna say, exactly, the repeats, of knowing.
Like, they can tell us things and it doesn't go anywhere, so,
Yeah.
I mean, we're pretty much a safe space, even.
And we're not evaluating them, so if
That's
they're- if
exactly,
they-
that's what I'm thinking.
I had
Your
a teacher actually
objective.
text me earlier and say, it's kind of embarrassing, but where do I find this? And I'm like, that's not embarrassing, you're busy.
Yeah,
I'm
so
like,
you need a
"It's
support
fine."
here,
So I
yeah,
can send you a link in 5 seconds in an email because I have so many things in my Google Drive,
Yes,
it's like
yes.
overflowing, right? So it's like,
yes.
being that resource for them, and then, and how do I do that? And we can go and show them, and like Kathy said, going in and getting something started sometimes and then releasing, and then that teacher says to another teacher, as Lindsay said, oh, actually, this really helped, and now I'll go do this with another. So just one, if there's 4 teachers on a grade level and I did something with one, sometimes,
Spreads
oh,
out.
well, Karen did
Nice.
this, so you should ask her, and then I will do the same thing with, so sometimes that can spreads.
Right, and like that overlap, it's not just math or just literacy, it's all the subjects, like you were saying, they're writing in art, they're writing in gym potentially, or doing. I
Instead
want-
of going home and spending like 4
Yeah.
hours trying to get your head
Just to
wrapped
get
around
around
it,
it.
sometimes you just need a 40-minute session with a coach to orient yourself to what this is trying to achieve.
Mhm.
Then as an educator, you're much more efficient at understanding, oh, okay, the underlying purpose is this. Now I can make better informed decisions about how I'm gonna use that 50 minutes in my literacy class, that kind of thing.
I wonder if we, like, I know we do our other things, but we're always asking people to report data. You know me and my data. Angela knows I love data. It's in my, about sharing these successes. It'll be in the minutes, but even sharing it more so district-wide and out to the public. Because I think as a
Yeah, figure out
parent,
how to
I
do
don't
that.
appreciate until I hear the data. That's why I'm on the school board, so I can appreciate the levels and what folks are doing, and just understanding why that's impactful. We're talking about cutting programs and things that are happening. I think people get pretty polarized about, Title I and other things. But what about all the students can benefit from these type of interactions, it feels like, so, yeah.
And it's really interesting, like being out in public places sometimes. So my kids are into hockey, so I'm at the rink a lot. And there's a lot of Gardner kids that play
Yeah,
hockey, and they'll be
yeah.
like, hey, you were in my classroom today, or hey, I just saw you in the
Nice.
hallway,
That
or hey,
community
like.
connection, yeah.
And so then their
Yeah.
parents are like, well, who is she? Like, why do you know who she, like, and so it's just a
She's never been your teacher, I never met her
Right,
before.
exactly.
It's
Yeah.
a cool connection, and I also
Nice.
wanted to note, like, on the numbers of requests.
Yeah,
I know for me, and I think it's for everybody else, that doesn't include like the text messages
I was
that
gonna
we
say,
get and the
this is the
emails.
data that Angela
And the
is
phone
like, yeah,
calls.
I appreciate that.
And the
I
sometimes I
appreciate
stop- Stopping in the
Put something
hallway.
in my calendar,
Yeah.
so that I end up, like, a few
Yeah.
times I thought about it after the fact, oh, I didn't add that in, but I did go to the middle school to
When
see
I,
this
yeah, I
teacher,
did this
or I
thing,
did
right,
this thing,
Or I got
Yeah,
a text
yeah.
message right before this meeting saying, hey, can you call me right now to talk about kiddo? And I was like, no, I'll call you after.
right,
Yeah.
right.
Yeah, so they do keep,
Yeah.
they each have a spreadsheet and it
Oh, boy.
reads, supposedly reads into another tab.
Mhm.
Eyes can see the second tab, don't try to look at the first
Yeah,
tab. And
gotcha.
and then it gets this collected data, and of course, it's all reliant on them having a minute to sit down and record
Right,
every little
right,
piece. And
yeah.
it seems like they're quite thorough, but it is all this other stuff, right? It's the
Sure,
walking down the
yeah.
hallway, the text messages, the phone calls. They seem to be very generous about sharing their cell phone numbers with staff, and so then they do. Yeah, and their chocolate bowl, so they get a little
Smart.
panic
Yeah.
SOS calls
Yep,
and texts, and those aren't gonna be recorded in any of this.
Yeah, yeah, no, I
Yeah.
What's the
appreciate
quickest
that,
way to reach us?
yeah,
Also, if I'm creating something for a teacher, like sometimes my office is here, so I might be sitting in here for a couple hours working on creating things for teachers. So
Right.
sometimes I feel like that time's not, I've done a lot of that because my focus has
Yes.
been supporting them with tools.
right,
So I'm making
Yeah.
things that are gonna be lining up with our curriculum, and it's
Yeah.
not out there. They can't find it. So I need to make some of these things to support them. And so that's another reason I was looking at how it went down, and I was like, oh, well, I guess I'm doing like, so my time's a little bit different.
yeah, that
Yeah.
makes sense.
It's gonna have a big impact, and it already has, so I feel good about that, seeing some of the data that's coming
Well,
out,
I'm a
using the tools.
proponent of
it's-
that, yeah, writing it down, I think I say that
Yes.
daily in my work, like, can we write it down? It's great, but yeah,
Yeah.
that's great.
The other thing, I think this is stating the obvious, but so we have some pretty robust support, K-8 and literacy, although I think every one of them's like, if I could only clone me. And then we have this one math coach, and the question is always going to be, can we keep that position for the next year? Not asking you to answer that right now, but as you
Yeah.
go through the budget process, it's hard, we're making really tough decisions on some of these budget years.
Yeah.
And there's some significant need for considering what are the evidence-based, research-based practices that we're using? Where are the gaps? And we need to continue to work through building this intervention system of support for students. And where there's continuous need is where there isn't support, which is at the high school. And so it's not that they're not requesting because there isn't a need, they're not requesting because I have no one assigned at the high school.
Yeah, makes sense.
And so every so often, there's an SOS and Kirsten runs up there and tries to do something. She's built some really nice relationships. And in fact, now Karen's doing the intervention learning theme. She's building some relationships. Lindsay's starting to because she's been connecting with some of the math staff up there and so on and so forth. And so it is something that's on my mind. I don't know how we're gonna resolve it yet, you know, in terms of like staffing, budget issues, but it's just something I wanted to make sure that that you understand that 3 is not because there isn't a need, it's because there isn't assigned staff and there isn't really access.
Well, there should be.
Right. You got it, Diane. And I was gonna say for another time, but the whole like, does the state provide supports for these type of roles? And could we prove that we need them because of the data we have and the,
Yeah, so they highly support instructional coaches.
okay,
But it's not in our ED 279.
yeah.
It, you know, sometimes we can use grant funding to
Mhm.
support one or half of one.
Right, right.
Depending on the grant.
Yeah.
And, you know, and the time, so I know we're always trying to be creative around that
Yeah.
and try to get every dollar to stretch as much as it can. And we also recognize, like, first and foremost, we need teachers, and then those teachers need support.
That's right.
And so there's always a tension, right? And so we'll just have to keep that in mind as we
Yeah.
go through this budget season as to how we're gonna make decisions.
Yeah,
And something for you to think about with the larger group.
right.
I do have to wrap us up because we have one more
Yeah.
thing and I don't want us to go too late tonight. But I want to honor your time. Thank you.
Thank you for coming and
Yeah,
sharing.
thanks. We always look forward to this meeting
Awesome.
to talk about what we do. So
Yeah.
thank you for inviting us.
And if you have exciting things to share, just send them to Angela and she'll keep
Yeah.
sharing them.
Yeah,
Not only to
yeah,
us, but
for
to the
sure.
board and to the public as a parent and a board member and all those things. That's
Yeah.
great to
Been
hear.
trying to do
Yeah.
that. And then the curriculum newsletter is starting back
Yeah,
up. So
that's right.
hopefully you've seen some
Perfect.
of
Yeah.
the things they talked about are tucked in there, not in
Yep.
great depth, but they are there. So if you have questions, you can always ask.
If middle school math team moves up placement next meet, it's going somewhere.
Okay, perfect. Let us know.
Yeah. Thank you all very much for coming.
Thank you.
Yes.
Travel safely, stay warm.
All those things.
Yes.
Wait, what's next?
So the last item is the program of studies. So
It's a big item.
it's a big item, but we've gone through this efficiently in the past.
That, yeah.
So I came up with a way that I think we
Awesome.
can do it efficiently.
Awesome.
So, let me just change my tab here so that other people can see. Oh, I don't think I. And I'll also try to, here's the summary. I will try to do this pretty efficiently. I actually have another board meeting also to go to in a different. Here it is. So I'm gonna share this. So in your packet, behind this little staple, behind the agenda, I think is where it was.
Yep.
There is a summary of the program of studies changes.
Mhm.
So, I'm just quickly showing the summary here. We're gonna go over it, but what I will do, what I would recommend that we do is you have the summary in front of you, and then beside you, you have the bound program of studies.
Yeah.
I don't normally give you a printed program of studies. We usually just project it and show you the highlights. But I also know that that's really hard to see, and my eyes are really tired after a long day on the computer, so I just thought if you had it in front of you. The changes, besides the first page, the changes are in, usually in blue or red sometimes. We're trying to be consistent though. And I've outlined them on the summary. So if you're trying to follow along, it goes in order
Mhm.
from the summary to the changes. So what I'm going to do for the public's sake, in case anyone's watching, is I'm going to actually screen share the program of studies instead of the overview.
Gotcha.
But we'll go over the summary and then I'll make sure this is viewable. I think, not sure if I'm being entirely coherent, but I think we'll
Yeah,
get
you
there.
are.
This one, share. Move this up, make it bigger. Okay, so every year we approve a program of studies for the high school. What that does is it approves a document for the students as they select their courses and their pathway towards graduation. It's especially important for the incoming first-year students because some changes that are made here then it's kind of their guaranteed document moving forward. Unless, of course, one particular course, we do decide to retire a course, we then indicate on the upcoming program of studies what that substitute is. Just like if you remember college courses, you're trying to map out your degree, it's the
Exactly.
same kind of concept at the high school level. Because because of your role, this is teaching and learning related, so you approved the program of studies so that like next week, when the 8th graders have their informational night, they'll be aware that a program of studies is coming, and then by the time we go through the board approval process, and hopefully we're ready for that full approval, then we're gearing up to where the students are about ready to register for their high school courses. They can use this document with support to select their 9th grade courses. And of course, there's like a checklist and all that, not just this giant book, but there are tools to help them make those decisions. So that's the purpose. There's an orientation. So all we're gonna do, it's almost the same thing every year. The part we're gonna do is just look at where are the changes, okay? So on page 3, there's a graduation requirements halfway through the page. This is a change that you're not actually approving exactly because it has to show up in the IKF graduation requirement policy, and we're gonna have to make the approval here, but I wanted you to be aware of our recommendation. This change won't actually be official, even if you approve the whole document, until that policy, because that
Yeah.
policy supersedes this.
Got it.
But so it says there's a recommended shift in math from a requirement of Algebra 1, Algebra 2, and Geometry to a requirement of Algebra 1, Geometry, and a third math choice. The rationale for that is we've changed state assessments. When it was the SAT, because they took it in their junior year, students really needed to have an in-depth understanding of Algebra 2 to do well on the SAT. So we had Algebra 1, then Algebra 2, and then Geometry. With the new state assessment that we're using, geometry they need to have a better understanding, and that assessment is taken in their 2nd year. So they wouldn't even be taking geometry till their 3rd year of high school. So that's problem number 1.
Yeah.
Problem number 2 is that Algebra 2 isn't really a requirement for every student to graduate high school, kind of as a general rule of thumb. It is for students entering a field where math is of interest or needed, or a lot of 4-year colleges, they should take Algebra 2. However,
State isn't asking it?
Right, and hasn't. So Algebra 1 and Geometry is what we're recommending, and then allow them to make a choice on their 3rd math course. So they have to take a 3rd math course, but they could take statistics or
Right.
trigonometry or Algebra 2 or whatever. There's other
Calculus,
choices.
whatever. Yeah, that's what I was just looking.
And they can take a 4th math course if they want to, that's an elective credit, but they have to take 3. So we're not reducing the number of credits, we're shifting
Choice,
the
yeah.
orientation.
That makes sense.
And again, so I'm gonna scroll to math. No, I'm not. That's just, we're shifting the orientation, then I'll show you what it looks like when we get to the
Yeah.
math section. English. So the next course offering section is English. There aren't a lot of changes. I'm gonna scroll down. There's a few language changes. I'm not worried about them, but I'll show you an example. Freshman English co-taught part 1. they just changed some of the words from, I don't know, college-ready course to a college-bound ninth grade, right? But there's just some minor changes, and they updated the standards, the main English language arts standards have the new names, so they name them writing, language, reading, and listening, speaking. So that's why that's written like that. But in particular, the biggest change is anytime there's something to do with summer homework, they would like to, the English department would like to have that be a tentative approval. They'd like to revisit summer homework, so approve the courses and then revisit as a team the idea of summer work and calibrate some expectations. And be able to make a decision as if and what the summer homework would be. That's not something you usually approve as homework,
Right,
but
just that function, like, yeah.
I wanted you to be aware that there is a
Yeah.
conversation that there might be an opportunity for us to think about the workload of some students who get assigned homework across content areas at the high school.
Yeah.
And that some of that language, if they make some decisions as a team to maybe reduce some of the expectations of summer work or change them, that should be an instructional decision. And it's probably a decision that's made out of the, thinking the best interest of the students and what they would need to know in order to be effective at that summer homework. But that it's in January, they're not quite ready to put a
Yeah,
rubber stamp on it, but it doesn't impact the course itself.
Mhm.
Well, so a student might, for the summer, pick something to study? Is that-
No, so for example, they might be
There's
given a
pre-work.
text, a book they have to read and write about it. They
That's what
might,
my daughter had to do it.
they
for
might have to
English.
write an essay,
Yeah.
they might have to, do some
Do a
problem sets in
project.
math and
Yeah.
biology, they might have to do an analysis of a lab report. So on and so forth.
And
Okay.
then in the fall, that would be part of another course?
That would be part of something,
course that they're-
it's a prereq to the course they're about to
Uh-huh.
take.
I see.
So that's where the conversation comes in. How much knowledge do students need to be able to have in order to be prepared to do summer work for a course they have not yet started?
And they haven't necessarily, like, they might know the teacher, but they get added to Google Classroom and then it's like on there. And they just know the date it's due, is how I would.
And some of
yeah.
it is, are they developing skills to be independent learners? And for a course that's rigorous, like for AP, we don't have a lot of choice. They kind of have to because there's so
That's a
little
required, yeah.
amount of time. They have to fit everything in. But it's for the other courses that there's a little bit of a conversation. So I just, I wanted you to be aware
Mhm.
that is not really something you're voting on, but something that I highlighted so you were aware that there's a conversation to be had, but the course itself is not in question. And then the only other thing in English, besides like some grammatical language choices there, is or like, see, they made a book change, so they
Right.
noted that.
Yeah.
But I'm sorry, I've got to scroll down to locate it. Is the writing center that you approved last month is now added in here. So you've already approved it and we embedded it
Mhm.
on page, whatever this page is, 12.
12, yeah.
So it's exactly as she discussed with you and you approved the concept.
Yep.
The next section is social studies. Sorry, film studies. I didn't catch that. We were kind of all doing this all at once. The course description in film studies changed to make it more relevant and a little more contemporary.
Mhm. Yeah.
I mean, I will say Harold and Maude is one of my favorites.
And the same with film studies too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And we'll obviously clean the document up once the full board has gone through approval. And then some of these are electives, as you can see.
Right.
So like on the Kennebec is an elective that hasn't run for a couple of years, so we're not going to offer it this coming year, but it may come back another year in the
Right.
future. Then we go to social studies. The core courses in social studies are not changing, like the required courses. So the only changes are suggested in electives. And that would be a title change from conspiracy theory to conspiracy theories, oddities, and the unknown, making it it's more about the psychological concept and structure rather than like a conspiracy theory, so that we don't get too concerned about that. Psychology has become a dual enrollment course, so they can earn college for credits at KVCC.
Nice.
And so as a result, we're also removing staffing and availability and student interest over time. We're removing juvenile justice psychology, abnormal psychology, and the history of ancient art. A class that was added recently, so last year, just so you know, is this African American history of movement from around the world, and that is also a dual enrollment course through USM, University of Southern Maine. But that was last year, so then you'll see these strike through. So it's not that students aren't getting electives, they're just getting different ones if they choose to add those. So it's based on student interest and staffing, skill set, and time. In the math department, we've already talked about the shift in courses, so that's outlined here. And as you can see here, remember how I talked about the program of studies as sort of this guarantee? So right here, beginning with the 24-25 school year, if this is approved, the sequence of math courses has changed and students will take geometry immediately following Algebra 1. And then later on, what you'll see is a little note, or also right here. No, not there. Later on, there's a note like, except if you have to take Algebra 2 because of your sequence
Something else,
approved,
right.
right, from your policy. This change here, Algebra 1 co-taught, it's just moving from 4 semesters to 2. And then Part B stays because some students are in Part A now. So we have to be able to have Part B only for them. And so like here, it says students who are enrolled in Algebra 1A during the 23-24 school year should sign up for this course because they need the second part over 2 years. So it's a whole year of Part B. So it used to be like Algebra 1 in 2 years. And we're finding that that's, there are different ways to do that. So we're doing Algebra 1 co-taught in 1 year as an option. And then regular, and then honors, and they remove summer homework.
Yep.
Except for AP courses.
Yeah, I was just seeing that.
So that was a decision the math team has come to already and recommended, but the English department and others are still considering. So that's just the timing I wanted you to be aware of. They also removed a requirement for graphing calculators. They will supply them. Students are able to bring them if they need to, but they will supply them. And the other change is in statistics. Big change. Some in here are about sequencing. I gotta find it, sorry. Scroll.
Oh, no, I just was looking at it.
This will all be, once approved, it'll all be posted on the high school website.
Yeah.
So if anyone's seeing this and me scrolling, it will be available once fully approved. So statistics is going from kind of like a 2 semester sequence, that's why there's a strike through, to a 1 semester of statistics and 1 semester option of trigonometry. So we just kind of parsed out the curriculum, and then students they don't have to take them in order, and they can take either one or both. So it just gives a little bit more flexibility for students. And if they combine them, then they get that 3rd year optional course, right? Or they can take a half semester of statistics and half a year of statistics and maybe half of your computer science and get their math credit, right? So there's some options that students haven't ever had before.
Can
to
some of
fit.
them get like computer science if they're up at the Capital Regional place?
Yep, they can fit it in their schedule because they'll have half a day.
So I have a question.
Yeah.
So if I look like under the math electives and I see statistics and trigonometry, it's saying these are by default honors level courses?
Currently.
Okay, so I just wanted to, okay.
Yeah, we're learning how to do this.
Yeah, that's fine.
There is pre-calc,
Yeah,
and they all
I
say
never
this
got
for
that.
now. There's college algebra,
right,
that's a dual enrollment,
nice.
and pre-calc, another pre-calc is dual enrollment. There's tech math, any student,
That's awesome.
which is, it's also dual enrollment too.
That's
Which,
cool.
and
Any
it's a
dual
great
enrollment is awesome,
course.
yeah.
It's very specific. There's quantitative reasoning, also dual enrollment, open to all students.
Nice.
It's a blend of algebra and trigonometry. I mean, there's some completion requirements, but and one's sort of a prerequisite to the other, but they're also semester-based courses, so they can make a whole year out of it, which is exciting. And then, of course, the regular AP courses and computer science 1 and 2 remain in the schedule. In science, the change that is, they just changed some wording, but the only one that I'm really seeing that was significant is they changed what they called essentials biology, which is currently students that are significantly struggling in reading and math who also need a lab science and aren't as interested in science might take that. They've shifted it to biology for daily living. And then they have offered 2 additional electives, which are further down on page 20. Really? Should be blue. Here, there. The additional electives, sorry, there
Oh,
are other
gotcha.
electives, page 33.
I get
They've other offering microbiology and engineering design. It's based on based on staff skill set and student interest. They sometimes fill, they sometimes do not fill, based on what students can fit in their schedule. So if it's offered, it's not guaranteed that we'll actually run the
Right.
course, but it's an
Right.
opportunity to run the course, which are both pretty interesting. World languages, the only significant change, there's some wording, actually, no wording changes. Yes, there's a few wording changes. They changed some verbs in Spanish.
Oh, yes, yeah.
Yeah, comparing and that's sort of alignment with the standards. They were kind of looking that over. The other change is, they're not in here. There were other electives and they've removed them. There has been a lack of student interest. So they aren't going to keep advertising them for now. And then visual and performing arts, there's some changes there. Concert band, we talked about this
Yeah.
earlier.
Mhm.
They removed the requirement to be in jazz band, a supplemental jazz band if you join concert band, but they kept the requirement that you will be in the winter and spring concerts, which is something kids experience all the way through our school system. So that's a recommendation. They added 2 elective courses based on student interest and need. You probably won't be surprised by these based on conversations we've had this year, but they've added theater tech and
Yeah.
guitar.
Awesome.
To try to diversify some experiences and have some experiences that are enabled, that show up on a student's transcript. They want to enter in these spaces. Art, she removed Art 2D1 and 2D2, which is kind of a generic title, cleaned up the description and have called it drawing, painting, and design would be what 2D1 was. Printmaking and mixed media is what 2D2 was. So just adding some real clarity and focus so you know what you're getting into, and kind of adds interest, I think. And then instead of 3D1, they've renamed it hand building. I think I missed one in my summary. And wheelwork, which was functional ceramics. And there are the deletions. And I think that's it for art. And then we move into video. Video production 1, some students see video production 2 and they're all excited, but they haven't taken video 1, so they just have to know they have to take video production 1. It goes in order, so that they build their skill set over time. She has had some experience in video production 2 now, so she wanted to rework the description based on what she realizes she can actually accomplish in a semester with students.
Because that was new too, only. in the
Yes,
last
it was
year.
not, we haven't
Yeah.
had it for very long. Jennifer
Nice.
Clausen works with the students.
Yeah.
She updated the description of sports videography and
Mhm.
photography for the same reason. And then made very clear that there are some
Yeah.
requirements that you have to actually attend some of the sports events in order to do the videography. I made a mistake. Intro to photography is not new. I made a mistake in my summary. Melissa identified that for me. And then there's an elective that I think is she removed new media and technology and motion graphics and animation, which you approved 2 years ago. She's had some time to work with students and understand what they really want, and so she's proposing instead sports media.
Media,
It's where the attention is, the student has, I don't know if you've seen some of the publications
Oh,
these
they're pretty
students are
awesome.
doing for sports and arts, they're pushing them on
Yeah,
the
you can
Facebook
follow them
pages
on
and
Facebook and stuff.
on GHS Athletics, it's
Doing
fascinating.
interviews
Oh.
and
Yeah,
stuff, and the
interviews
students,
and
it's pretty
Professional
cool.
photography,
I've
it's
seen the
really,
photos, yeah, I've seen
really
some of the photos.
contemporary.
Yeah, they look good.
It's
um,
pretty neat.
and then they're doing a big newsletter at the end of each term. And then for the videography classes, she has a big showing screening, which is gonna be on the same night as our
Oh, it's,
strategic planning, but
Damn it.
you can catch the last hour.
all right.
Yeah,
Nice.
so we won't miss all of it. Career education, you hanging in there with me?
Yeah, we're doing
getting
good.
through.
Yep.
Career education, okay. This is always confusing to people, but we have required sequence of courses. They've always been called life, well, I think they've routinely been called life and work. I actually think they had different names. And so we now are sequencing it life and work 1, life and work 2. And the descriptions have been adjusted, so you see they start their 2nd year and go to their 3rd year. And the one is, oh, this is what it is. Life and work 1 is the exploratory, it's like career and it's like life planning, right? What do you wanna do after high school? And it kind of starts orienting them to all their options. And then in the number 2, they can choose sort of, this is new to us, this pathway thing. They can choose sort of a, you really wanna do college, let's have this pathway. Or you really wanna enter into the career world more quickly, the workforce or entrepreneurship, this is your pathway. Come to this 1 semester course. Now, if you take the college and you end up wanting to enter the workforce after high school, this does not prohibit you from doing that.
Yeah, it's just
Or if you take the
exploring,
career path and you're like, oh, I really should go to college, this doesn't prohibit you from going to college.
Yeah.
And in fact, you could take the other course if you had the time in your schedule. So it's something so from career and tech to life and work, which is, we're just shifting those around and creating more student selected options so that they feel they're in a cohort and they can really focus in and not feel like you're trying to sell them a bill of goods on something. It's a trial to see how it goes. I bet they've certainly thought through it very carefully. They've talked to the students about it. And then the elective
This is exciting.
did I miss it?
47. You're not
Thank
there.
you.
Yep,
Okay, JMG just has some wording changes.
yep.
The elective is called the Alchemy of Finance.
I mean,
So it's really building
yeah.
upon the idea of financial literacy, including statistics, economics, psychology, business. There's a capstone project, a
This
trading
is real
system
world for me,
design.
trying to find
Yeah.
people that get this whole concept right now.
Yeah.
That's pretty cool.
And they need them.
Yeah, right.
Markets and finance.
Yeah,
I mean,
that's
it's
great.
really kind of fascinating. So that's been added. Gifted and talented is next, no changes. Wellness, no changes, no significant changes. There was a word change somewhere. Instead of introduction to yoga fusion, it's introduction to yoga.
Yeah.
And then here's the, oh, that's new. Foundations of coaching and leadership. I'm sorry, we were doing this in tandem. I
Yep.
thought that we had already had that. So that's new.
Oh, yeah.
And it's an elective.
Yep.
Yeah, Jordan Hersom has been teaching that, I think. Something like it. They must have repurposed
Yeah.
it a little because it's in blue. And then alternative ed has no significant changes, so they're not highlighted, no changes. Special ed, the only change was the word essential. And then this section, we're just gonna hold and have full board approval
Yeah.
when it comes because Capital Area Tech Center has made some changes to their, not their prereqs, but their orientation to each program. And I'd like you to have some time to read through it. Jim and I went to a session about it. They made some adjustments as a result. They're all reflected in here. And your approval of this without CATC does not impact incoming freshmen. So we can approve it at the full board meeting where I can update the summary and provide a little
Yeah.
summary on CATC, and it will give you a little bit of time to read through it. Because it's always seems to be a topic of interest for the,
Yeah.
for the board.
Uh-huh.
So I thought that would be more respectful of your time. So you, that's as fast as I could go. And the only other piece is you have this one paragraph in here and I have to find it in the, was added in just as we were printing this off. Learning Center has never been in the program of studies and it's such a, it's actually an assigned portion of time for some students. So we added in a description, which is in front of you. And it just clarifies that it's on small group and one-on-one academic support with a staff member and specifically what they're focusing on. That's how their time will be spent. And it's based on a referral process. Is there a need for this level of support? Instead of just going to a study hall, you go somewhere where you have specific guided support. And just embedding it actually into the program of studies.
That's good.
Any
Well done.
questions?
Where does this fit in? Where would you
It
put
would
it?
be near the opening
Okay,
under probably,
okay,
I don't know where we would put it. I think we would offer it right near the, either
like goals or?
registration procedure
Okay.
or department information.
Yeah, got it. Very good.
Like where the counseling stuff is
Yeah,
offered, then we would embed it in there. So, do you have any concerns?
No, it's, it
Thorough.
gives people a lot of options.
Well, and I mean, the folks who are teaching it are updating it and yeah, so that's, I trust what they know, right?
Yeah.
And yeah, they're trying to keep it in alignment. We're trying to add more student choice.
Right,
You know, being aware that they need to be in charge of their educational experience and, you know, and they can make informed decisions about their future with support. And so, as you can see, we're slowly creating space for those kinds of choices to be made. So I will need a motion.
motion to approve the Gardner Area High School programs of studies that we reviewed.
Second.
Megan, are you in favor?
I'm in favor. All in favor.
Yeah, excellent.
Thank you. What time is it? 4:55. When we did that. Okay. Thank you.
Yeah.
For your very much, for your patience when we walked through that very large document.
Do we have anything
Anything else for the good of
else?
the order?
No, I don't think so. Thank you so much. Very much. A lot of information. Good. It's relevant to me because I happen to have a ninth grader who wants to look at these things soon. So it's pretty
That's
sweet
good.
for that. Yeah. So I think we are adjourned 4:57.
Great. Oh
Oh,
my
and
God.
there's my note. Almost done, bruh. There it is.